Alright, people. Review of the week time. So, this is primarily going to be a review of the Matchroom versus Queensberry show, which, again, I just have to say, this was a great show. I really enjoyed it. It went on late. I mean, it was nearly 2 a.m. Again, the show finished. By the time videos and all went out, it was after 2 p.m. or 2 a.m. So it was a late one. But it was a really, really good show. We're going to talk about every fight on it. So the first probably 10 to 12 minutes of this video, which will be timestamped, is probably going to be just reviewing this card as a whole. And then we'll talk about a few other things that have happened over the course of the last week. But let's just do it. Let's do it in chronological order. The order it went in the fight, or in the card. Willie Hutchinson. Oh, and by the way, before I actually talk about that, I thought going into this that Queensberry might just nick it. They might just nick this show because I got a few picks wrong. I think I finished with 3 right, 2 wrong. And boy, was I thinking Queensberry might nick it. The captains will play a big role in it, but 10-zip, 5-0. I mean, that's a drubbing if ever I see. I mean, I can't believe it was that conclusive for Queensberry. I really can't. Honestly, that shocked me. How conclusive a slam dunk it was for Queensberry. Unreal. The only Matchroom fighter who won was Dimitri Bivol. And that wasn't even part of the Matchroom versus Queensberry show. So yeah, really bad night for Matchroom. Didn't see that coming at all. And yeah, I'll talk about that more in a wee bit. But let's start with the card itself. Willie Hutchinson, Craig Richards, again, completely wrong. I couldn't believe what I was seeing in there. Willie Hutchinson was boxing better than I've ever seen him box. He was performing better than I've ever seen. Look, Craig Richards is not a bad fighter. Under no stretch of the imagination is Craig Richards a bad fighter. He's not. But he's not a world beater. I think a lot of people were flattered by his performance against Dimitri Bivol. You got to take it in context. Bivol was fighting. Was that behind closed doors as well? God, I think it might have been one of the last behind closed doors shows they had. And he didn't fight in the behind closed doors era, we'll call it. So how could that have affected him, I should say? He was out of the ring since 2019. That was mid-2021. So a lot of ring rust, a lot of inactivity. Probably did underestimate Craig Richards like we all did. And I think that played a big factor in Richards doing as well. It was still a clear win for Bivol. People say, oh, it was close. It wasn't really. Bivol won the fight pretty clearly. And Willie Hutchinson went in there, bossed the fight. Some people were saying that the 119-109 scorecard was too wide. I disagree. I think that was spot on. I think the only round you could categorically give to Craig Richards was the 11th. Other than that, you could make a case he won a couple of them, but it was really Willie Hutchinson in every other round. It really, truly was. Then we had, arguably, this was the fight of the night, and I wouldn't really be disagreeing. Ray Ford, Nick Ball, great fight, loved it. Split decision. Look, that is the definition of a close fight. You have both promoters saying, can't really argue, 115, 113 each way. Could have been a draw. I wouldn't have complained with a draw, to be honest with you, because it was genuinely that type of fight. If I had to pick a winner, I actually thought when the fight was done, I was like, you know what, I think this is a draw. Genuinely, I actually think this is genuinely a fight that's a draw. And it went not how we all thought it would. Nicky Ball is the sort of fighter where he comes on late. He tends to make the second half of the fight his half. In this fight, it was the other way around. He came on in the first half of the fight and Ray Ford came on in the second half of the fight. Listen, whoever you had winning, whether you had Ford winning or whether you had Nick Ball winning, I can't really argue either way. If I had to say, and it's not just because I picked him to win, but I do think I would have just edged. If someone I felt deserved, both guys really deserved it, but if one guy deserved it more, I would say it would be Nick Ball ever so slightly. Ever so slightly. It was a good performance by both guys. Ray Ford will go to 130. I think he'll do good work there. Nick Ball at 126. Let's have the Ray Vargas rematch. Why not? Unification. There you go. So that was a great fight. That was fight of the night. There were so many good fights on this card. Richards versus Hutchinson was a really good fight too. The only fight that wasn't that good was Wilder versus Zhang. And even then, we still got a big knockout in it. Hamza Shiraz versus Amo Williams. This was a really, really, really good performance. A coming-of-age performance by Hamza Shiraz. Hurt in round number 2, but came through that. I mean, that jab. What I will say about Hamza Shiraz is that the size difference between him and Williams. Shearer's looked a light heavyweight in there. I mean, the size different. How he makes 160 pounds, I'll never know. No wonder he has so much power. But he's very talented, is Hamza Shearer. He's a very talented fighter. He's a lovely jab. That jab is a weapon. It's like a straight shot. You know, it's like a backhand shot. It was messing the eye up of Ammo Williams. It was closing the eye. Then he brought the right hand in. Ammo Williams takes a hell of a shot. He really does. But I want to say after about round 7, round 8, that was it. It was done. And if I had one critique of Hamza Shearer is that he probably could have stepped on the gas a little bit earlier than he did. But once he did, that was it. That was all she wrote. Dimitri Bivol against Malik Zinad. Yeah, like Malik Zinad now, I have to say, even in defeat, and he got stopped. He's the first stoppage win for Dimitri Bivol since 2018 against Sullivan Barrera. And even then, that was in round number 12. The last early-ish to mid-round stoppage he had was in 2017 in Monaco. Got a first-round knockout that night. I can't remember the guy's name. Was it Trent Brackhurst or something like that? Australian fighter. But that's the last real kind of early-ish stoppage that Bivol has had. 2017, a long time. You know, Malik Zinad, to be fair, he's not a bad fighter. You know, yeah, he got stopped by Bivol, but like he actually genuinely, when I was like, actually, there's a bit of talent there. He'll get some fights off the back of that. Him versus Richards, that'd actually be a good scrap. Him against Willie Hutchinson, he'll get fights off the back of that. He absolutely will. He's not a bad fighter. Genuinely, he actually has a little bit of ability in there. Daniel Dubois, Filip Hrgovic in the co-main event. By this stage, Hrgovic needed to stop Dubois, as did Wilder, to salvage draw for Matchroom. That didn't happen, you know. Dubois early on, he was getting lit up in there. His defense was poor. Frank Warren even said at ringside that he was worried because Dubois was getting hit with that right hand. Good set of whiskers on him. He genuinely has. He took plenty of flush shots from Filip Hrgovic. Dubois' jab was brilliant in this fight. And I've always said he's got a very good, very powerful, piston-like jab. It's a real fast, snappy shot. It's a great jab. What I will say is that Daniel Dubois, yes, people are going to say head. Yeah, he was reckless with the head. Very reckless. And some people would say, sometimes genuinely you can be reckless with the head. If you're a smaller fighter trying to come in with your chin tucked down. That really wasn't the case with Dubois. And there was some shots went in there that you definitely 100% were low. So I think a few people who were saying, and again, you know, some people would say, look, I'm not a Fury fan, but I felt that, you know, Dubois against Usyk, there was nothing wrong. I've seen a few of them say, do you know what, actually, yeah, maybe I was wrong. Maybe it was legit that he was trying to go a little bit too low on Alexander Usyk with those body shots. At the end of the day, Hrgovic, his gas tank went, it just went quick. Like, it went quick in there. And it was target practice for Dubois, really. What I will say about Filip Hrgovic, he has probably one of the best chins in the heavyweight division because this guy can just take a shot for days. I mean, Zhang couldn't dent him. Dubois couldn't dent him. And even the stoppage, yeah, he was cut, but I've seen worse, and they've allowed it to go on. You could argue, and you definitely wouldn't be wrong, make the case that Fury's cut against Otto Wallin was worse than what was happening with Hrgovic. You can make the case. Because I've seen fights go on for a lot worse. Daniel Dubois gets the win, you know. As I said, you know, Deontay Wilder, that win for Tyson Fury has not aged as well as the win for Alexander Usyk over Daniel Dubois. And Daniel Dubois being a young, up-and-coming heavyweight, still now interim IBF champion, Usyk handled him with ease. And he's gone now. He's beaten Hrgovic. He's beaten Big Farmer Miller. Could be going in to fight Anthony Joshua next. The kid's doing well. I'll give him that. He's proven a lot of us wrong. You know, Daniel Dubois is the sort of fighter where it's hard not to like him as a person. It's hard not to like him. But you see him quitting fights and you're thinking, I don't trust you. But the trust is slowly starting to come now for Daniel Dubois. And obviously the main event, we have Wilder versus Zhang. Like I said, I've always enjoyed watching Deontay Wilder. I like his story, turning pro to help support his little girl. And again, enjoying his fights over the years. It was sad to see him like that. You know, I like Deontay Wilder. I like watching him. He's entertained me for years and years and years. I've stayed up to late so many times to watch his fights, even before I did YouTube. That was enough to make me sad seeing him like that. And I wasn't picking him to win the fight. I got the fight I expected. But it's still, you know, people are saying he needs to retire. I think he does, for his own sake. the way he's been talking this week, he's got one foot out the door already. So there you go. Look after your family. Boxing has made you a multi-millionaire, and you've been a world champion. I think you've done all right. So bow out. In terms of everything else on that card, that was it really, actually. That was the whole card. But it was a great card. I fully enjoyed it, thoroughly enjoyed it. 5-0, Queensberry with a clean sweep. Frank Warren's team, when he announced it, and I knew about the team obviously prior to this, but I remember me and Addy were talking about it. We were like, that Queensberry team looked good when it was announced first. We obviously were talking about it beforehand. We were like, that's a good Queensberry team. And that's a good Matchroom team, but a lot of people were looking, I think they were wishful thinking, just saying, Matchroom are going to win easy. And I was like, they'll win fights. There's some pick'em fights there, but gun to my head, I'd say Queensberry might have the edge. Didn't think they had a 5-zip edge. I mean, that really shocked me. And I guess I meant to do a video on this. I haven't had a chance to do it today. But it's a testament to Frank Warren, because you think about it like this, right? Frank Warren, in the early days of Box Nation, they weren't amazing, the shows. I want to say maybe 2016, 2017 was probably the worst for Frank Warren, because Box Nation was going nowhere. Some of his fighters were leaving, and some of them weren't really doing much. He was having to rely, and I mean no disrespect to this particular fighter when I say this, right? I mean no disrespect in the slightest. But he was having to rely on Boy Jones Jr. headlining in a leisure centre on some, they weren't on BT at the time, Box Nation shows. That really shows where Frank Warren was at. It looked like Queensberry were just done. They weren't turning a profit. They were losing money hand over fist. They weren't signing fighters. They didn't have a major TV deal. Then they sign a BT deal. They get some good fighters. Frank has always been a great eye for talent. He's whatever you say about Warren, he's a brilliant eye for talent. He really does. And he gets these fighters in early. Frank Warren can build fighters very well. He can build them well. He doesn't write them off necessarily if they lose. He gives them the right fights, and he's great at building. He's great at building fighters. He really is. And he's built a great stable of homegrown fighters, mixed with fighters he's brought in, like Zilly Zhang. But you look at the stable he had. He took Willie Hutchinson from David Haye when Haymaker just kind of seemed to go off the face of the earth. Built him up after that loss. Hamza Shearer since day one. Daniel Dubois since day one. Nicky Ball. I know Nicky Ball turned pro on the small hall scene, and then obviously Frank Warren gave him a shot. Look what he's done with these fights. It's quite incredible, really, how good he is. And I think that the way Warren has gone from strength to strength now, with this next Olympic cycle coming up, a lot of these fighters are going to be turning pro with Queensberry. It wouldn't shock me if Frank Warren gets the majority of them, because in the past it's always been they've normally tended to go with Eddie Hearn. Wouldn't shock me if they all, not all of them of course, but it wouldn't shock me if a large majority take the Queensberry offer if it goes to them, because they'll see what Warren is doing, the shows he's putting on, and he is the main guy with Turkey Al Sheikh over in Saudi Arabia. Excuse me. I know Eddie Hearn is working with them as well, but Frank Warren is the man with these promoters. He is the main promoter, even though you can say it's co-promoter. Frank Warren is the main guy, and I'm sure a lot of prospects from the Olympics looking over are going to be like, oh, I want Queensberry. It's incredible, really. And it shows the character Frank Warren is. Eddie Hearn is just tremendous. I mean, Eddie Hearn is a numbers man. He work. I'd say probably it's literally just, Matchroom is his life. And that's it. And it's the same with Warren. But when times get tough, Warren just comes swinging. I don't know if Eddie Hearn has that same resolve. Eddie Hearn has other avenues to go down with Matchroom. They have the snooker, they have the darts, which is doing brilliant thanks to Luke Littler. It's doing brilliant numbers. He has other things he can do. He doesn't have to just do boxing. With Frank Warren, it's boxing or bust. And he's put his heart and soul into this. He has his sons, Francis and George. And I like George Warren. He seems a real... He's the CEO of Queensberry, so you would imagine when Frank steps down, whenever that may be, because Frank Warren right now, I mean, he's 72 years old. Bob Arum is 92 and he's still going. Frank Warren, with the way things are going with him, he will be 25 years from now, I'll be telling my kids, Frank Warren, still going. Probably my kids by then, God knows how old they'd be, but they'd be saying, oh, Frank Warren, yeah, well, I've been to many of his shows. And it's crazy, really, when you think about it, but it's a testament to Warren. He's a fighter. He might not be everyone's cup of tea. He certainly isn't mine. But take that out of the equation. He is an absolute fighting man. And, I mean, he really, really put a beating on Eddie Hearn last night. I mean, that was just... honestly, I couldn't even envision a 5-zip, 10-zip win for Queensberry. Didn't fathom it. But credit to him. The best comment I seen on that was that, and it's a great analogy actually for those who are into WWE. I watched a bit of it back in the day, and I remember Survivor Series when they used to do SmackDown versus Raw. Very relevant because they had Queensberry in blue, SmackDown, and red for Matchroom Raw. SmackDown came out on top. There you go. The blue brand came out on top. Anthony Joshua, where was this? He was asked, Anthony Joshua, I'm potentially fighting Daniel Dubois or Zhilei Zhang next. I've got to pick them off one by one. It's not going to be easy. You're damn right it's not going to be easy. But that's my mentality. Come one, come all. Dubois, has worked his way up the ladder. We'll see what happens in the near future. I think the 3 fights that they're talking about really now is obviously going to be Dubois, Zhang, or Parker. Parker rematch. Out of those 3, I want to see him fight Dubois. I think it's the best fight. I think that it's a fight that it's dangerous for Anthony Joshua. You know, Dubois could take a good shot. Anthony Joshua will not take those shots as well as Hrgovic did if Daniel Dubois starts landing. Make no mistake about it. And Daniel Dubois has that youthful energy about him. That could be a really, really, really tough fight. Could be an extremely difficult fight for Anthony Joshua. Make no mistake about it. I know a lot of people would say, oh yeah, but listen. And again, I mean no disrespect for this, but Anthony Joshua's coming off the back of a win over Francis Ngannou, a UFC fighter. Yeah, a UFC fighter. If he had fought, imagine this, if Anthony Joshua had fought a random UFC heavyweight who had a bit of a boxing background, and he fought him and knocked him out in 2 rounds, and it wasn't Francis Ngannou. Let's say it wasn't even John. Just say it was just a run-of-the-mill UFC fighter who's turned over to Queensberry Boxing, and he was 0-1, and he fought Joshua, and Joshua knocked him out in 2 rounds. He would be absolutely they'd go to town on him, right? And they'd say, you just knocked out a UFC fighter. What does that prove? Well, he's literally just knocked out a UFC fighter. What does that prove? And you people saying, oh, now he beats Usyk. What? Because based off of what? Knocking out Francis Ngannou means he's beat Usyk. He won maybe 5 rounds out of 24. It's a tough fight. I would make Joshua a favourite, but it's a tough fight. We also got some great news. October 12th, mark it down in the calendars. I can't wait. Beterbiev versus Bivol. Was meant to happen last night, but it is thankfully happening on the 12th of October. What day is the 12th of October? Is that Saturday or a Sunday or a Friday? What day is it? It is a Saturday. So Saturday, October 12th is when we get that fight. What I will say about this fight is I'm thinking of changing my mind again. I'm changing my mind so much with this. I really am, because one week I'm thinking Beterbiev, next week Bivol, next week I'm thinking now Bivol. But again, my mind is kind of like, will it, won't it, will it, won't it, will it, won't it? I really don't know. I'm thinking it's going to be Bivol. But then maybe I'll see something that's Beterbiev. And it's a really, really, really tricky one. It genuinely is a really, really tricky one. And yeah, I really don't know who they're going to... I really don't know. I really don't know who's going to go. I think it's going to be a great fight, though. And as I've said, you can give me a crap undercard. I don't care. Give me Beterbiev Bivol. That's what I want to see. It's a brilliant fight. Do you know, I feel like I'm going to have to just talk about this again really, really quickly. Right now in boxing, we have just had one of the best shows I've seen in the last couple of years, with brilliant competitive fights that we would never have seen. We would never have seen without the Saudis. A fortnight ago, and I saw Turki Al-Sheikh say that the Ring of Fire card was special, and it was. It was Usyk Fury was a very, very special show. There was something different about that show. I don't know what it was, but I don't think I've ever felt that with a show before. That was special. And we got that. We had the Joshua Ngannou show, which again, it was a great show, even if the main event was a bit of a foregone formality. We had that brilliant Day of Reckoning show. We had that all heavyweight affair on I forget what the name of it was for, what was that called actually, the show with Fury and Gani, I can't remember. But we've seen some great shows over the last, not even a year. We've got many more to come. I don't know how long this Saudi intervention in the boxing is going to last, but I'm going to enjoy it while we have it, because right now, and who was it? Was it Dell or someone said that it's got so good now in boxing, it might have been Jamie, that you're seeing MMA guys report on boxing more so than ever now. Because boxing has, and it genuinely has. Yes, I watched Dustin Poirier last night lose. It was a good show. It was a good event. I love UFC. But right now, boxing is kicking its ass. It is. As much as you have Tom Aspinall having a defended interim title because what's John Jones doing? You know, McGregor is going to be fighting Chandler now the end of June. And I think he's going to get the living crappy out of him. And there's not a lot to look forward to in UFC. Not that much. Boxing is doing great things. I'm looking forward to the Joshua kickoff press conference. I'm looking forward to some of the fights that are happening this month. I'm looking forward to React Poor Billum Smith's, not even with Saudis. But I think that the other promoters like Ben Shalom are having to up their game because they want to get on the Saudi ladder, and the fights are so good they're having to boost their game up here. We have some cards on in July. We've got a good start to July. There's some good shows on there. We've got that big card on in August in America with Crawford headlining. I know Virgil Ortiz. I did worry about that, him having to be pulled from that show because of not Virgil Ortiz, sorry, Tim Zhu, because of the cut. I had my suspicions that might happen. I was kind of hoping it wouldn't happen, but it did, unfortunately. Hopefully they'll reschedule that fight, because honestly, that was the fight I was looking forward to that the most. I really was. But there's so much good stuff happening in boxing. It's amazing, and there's plenty more to come. Boxing as a sport is in maybe the best place I've ever seen it in. And when I was watching the show last night before I went live with the watch along, and they were showing the history of Frank and Eddie, I was reminiscing, because I was remembering the old IFL interviews, and I was reminiscing of 2014, 15, 16. And there was good fights back then. Not really so much 16. That was a pretty dull year in boxing anyway. But I was looking back and I was thinking, what a difference 8 years makes. If you had said to me 4 years ago, oh, by the way, here are some of the fights you're going to be talking about doing videos on, live watch-alongs on, I'd be like, in your dreams, am I going to be talking about Fury Usyk? Am I going to be talking about Wilder Zhang on the same card as Dubois Hrgovic, on the same card as Hamza Sheeris versus Amo Williams, which is co-promoted by Eddie Hearn and Queensbury? It's a match. I would laugh at you. I'd be like, this is fantasy. This is ridiculous. What are you talking about? And it's happening now. It's brilliant. Honestly, it's absolutely brilliant. What's not brilliant is Jake Paul revealing that they're going to reschedule the Mike Tyson fight. Anyway, moving on. What else is there? There's actually probably not that much else to talk about. I think it's primarily going to be about that. Now, I will do a separate video because I want to talk about Lawrence Okoli and some comments he made with regards to Eddie Hearn. Good comments, but I'll talk about that in a separate video because, I'll talk about it in a separate video. I'll do that one in a separate video. Let's have a quick look-see on boxing scene before we finish this up here. Let's have a look-see. Nick Ball now targeting old rival Ray Vargas. Makes sense. Makes the most sense. Eddie Hearn does not think Wilder has belief anymore. I don't think he does either. I agree with him. I agree. Oh, apparently Ryan Garcia, I did see this. Apparently he's claiming that there was whatever supplement he was using was contaminated with ostarine, which is why he failed those tests. And VADA quite rightly have pointed out, you, the individual, are responsible for the supplements you take. Absolutely correct. He'll get a slap on the wrist. I've said it once. He'll get a slap on the wrist. They'll do nothing. You're responsible. And some would say that's unfair to the guys who can't afford nutritionists. Well, Google is your friend, look it up. At the end of the day, I'm sure if you can go onto VADA's website, it gives you a list of banned substances, and all you can do is write, well, I'm thinking of having this protein shake. Oh, yeah, can't have it. And at the end of the day, as I say, Google is your friend, look it up. Is ostarine on VADA's banned list? There you go. So it falls to the fighter, but they'll give Ryan a slap on the wrist. 110%. He'll get a slap on the wrist. They might give him a little 6-month ban, and he's probably not even going to fight until the end of the year anyway. So there you go. There you go. What else is there? What else is there? What else is there? Oh, I should point out as well that last week it was announced that we are going to get the Fury Usyk show on December 21st this year. So Fury Usyk 2 as an early little Christmas gift. I'm okay with that. I'm happy with that. I'll take that. Nice little early Christmas present, Fury Usyk 2. There's nothing really on boxing scene. Fury Usyk 2. It's going to be a good fight. I'm making Alexander Usyk favourite. I'm already seeing people saying, oh yeah, Fury's going to win this easy now, second time around, based off of what he took a Hail Mary beating first time around. He's hardly going to be better this time around. But hey, let's wait and see. Lads, I'll leave it there. I hope you enjoyed the video. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. I'm going to actually put a post on the community tab, and I tell you why. I'm going to view flats this week, this Friday, over in London. And the last time I went to London, I got a Q&A. I did a Q&A, and it went down pretty well. Got some good views. Actually, got done very well in terms of views. And I thought, why not do a part 2? Because I probably will do videos when I'm over there, but I don't tend to do as many as I do when I'm here, because I don't know. Sometimes I'm just having fun as well when I'm in the city. I'm having fun. I'm meeting up with friends as well, so I don't have as much time. So at least that way I can get some content out, and people like the Q&As. So I'll probably leave a post on the community tab, probably record that maybe tomorrow, as in Monday, or Tuesday, upload it Friday or Saturday, probably Friday, maybe Thursday, Friday, one or the other. And yeah, we'll keep us going over the weekend, and business as usual over the weekend. There's no boxing. Oh no, sorry, there's the Don King show in a little place, Hard Rock Hotel in Miami, Florida. And Don King is still doing shows in 2024. Yeah, there's hope for anyone. But yeah, we'll do that during the week. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I hope you all have a great week. If you're in Ireland, you're enjoying a bank holiday. Yes, the weather's been good over here. Thank God for that. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Hope you all enjoyed it. Smash the like button. Hope you all have a great week. Peace.